What's up, YouTube? Back again with some more computer upgrades. For those of you not familiar with the parts in this case, I'll give a quick rundown. It's obviously got an EVGA, modular power supply, 750 watts. The motherboard, current motherboard is a Gigabyte H370 board. I'm not sure the exact model number. The processor's an 8600K and it has this 212 Black Edition cooler, 3 hard drives for a total of 2 terabytes, a Blu-ray drive, and a DVD burner. But the upgrades I'll be making today is I'll be swapping the motherboard for this Asrock Extreme4 Z390 chipset board, and also installing this Noctua cooler NHD15, supposed to be the best air cooler you can buy basically, and it should keep my temperature pretty nice when overclocking. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to it and we'll see how far we can push this 8600K. I had not originally, when I purchased the processor for this build, I had attempted to purchase an 8400 last Black Friday, and ended up the company did not have it in stock, even though they claimed they did. So eventually, after getting my money refunded, I decided to just go ahead and get the little bit faster unlocked chip, even though I already purchased the H370 motherboard. But I think it'll be a worthwhile upgrade, and not only that, but it'll free up this motherboard. So I will probably have another build here in the future featuring this board. I'm going to go ahead and get to it. Here's the H370 board out of the case. I need to go ahead and move the the M.2 NVMe drive and the memory modules over. I also need to get this processor out and transfer it over to the new motherboard. I'm already liking this NHD15 cooler quite a bit, just based on my experience so far with the packaging. Everything is really neat. The kit looks very complete. We'll see how good the instructions are. The 212 is not too complex an install, but the instructions do leave a little bit to be desired. Alright, I've got the backing plate installed and the little standoffs. I must say this is quite an improvement over the Hyper 212. These spacers here. The Hyper 212 just uses some thin nylon type washers, like very thin, to electrically isolate the board from the hardware of the cooler mounting system. And it, you know, when you're tightening it down to it, it's just very nerve-wracking that you might wreck a trace on the board. These big plastic standoffs this cooler uses are really a welcome sight. No worries about any damage to your motherboard using these. Just to add a little fuel to the fire of the great thermal paste debate and or internet troll argument, whatever you want to call it, but previously I'd used a kind of a X pattern, and I actually had good coverage, but had a little bit of the thermal paste had gotten off the sides of the chip. So this time I'm actually going to use the good old pea-size drop, which is actually what's recommended by the installation manual for this cooler. This new cooler absolutely dwarfs the Hyper 212. I think it'll look quite impressive once everything's put together and in the case. Alright, the heat sinks are now mounted. All that's left now is to add the fans and install this motherboard in the case and test everything out, see what kind of overclock I'm able to achieve with this cooler and Z390 motherboard. Alright, everything's mounted up and ready to install in the case, but unfortunately, as you can see, the tall memory modules were more of a clearance issue than I expected. Although I did measure, and it looks like the side window or the side panel of the case will just barely fit on. I'm not super happy since the fan is almost resting on the memory module here, so really it could probably go up one more fin. And it does look a little goofy this way, but I think I am going to go ahead and just try and run it like this, see if everything will fit, because I want the maximum cooling. I want to be able to run this system as fast as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and see how it works out for me. Well, I had everything pretty much hooked up except the front panel connections. The motherboard was installed, all the cables connected, and I should have checked a little more closely, but the fitment on this I/O shield is much better than I'm used to, so I thought it actually went in right, but unfortunately the grounding tab there on the display port actually went into the connector, which has been certainly a problem in the past with I/O shields. So I'm gonna have to take the motherboard out and correct that, or at least take all the screws out and slide it back a little and hopefully be able to fix it like that. Unfortunately, there's quite a few screws on this motherboard. This one actually utilized 3 additional mounting points. It's actually a good thing because this board is much more supported. It's a very heavy motherboard. The shipping weight was 18 pounds. I don't think the board weighs quite that much, but it is pretty hefty with the cooler attached. The motherboard box actually has that carry handle on it. And also, one more thing, this motherboard, I don't know if you can see it down there, it utilizes an additional 4-pin CPU power connector, so I'll definitely be taking advantage of that. Alright, I got that little issue with the I/O shield corrected. I believe I've got everything hooked up correctly, so it's the moment of truth now. I've already got some LEDs kind of breathing on the motherboard there, so that's a pretty hopeful sign, I would say. Let's see what happens. Nothing on screen yet, but it definitely seems to be working. Well, had a bit of a duh moment. Actually just had the monitor set to the analog input. Once I switched over to HDMI, I was able to see what's going on. Looks like the board's initializing. Ooh, let's see if we can get into setup real quick. Oh, nope. I'm gonna have to reboot and get into setup and make some changes. See what's going on there. Alright, made it into setup. It's kind of tricky because this computer boots up so quickly. The memory's running at 2133 now, so I'm gonna go ahead and make some tweaks and see what I can do with this system. Alright, I've got the computer running now. You can probably see where I got my greasy fingerprints all over the heatsink. Pretty nice looking LEDs on this motherboard, kind of subtle and tasteful, not over the top. This thing is starting to get a little toasty, actually getting up into the 80s. It's at 4.6 gigahertz on all cores now, but I have this side cover removed, so I'm going to go ahead and pop that on and see if that helps lower the temperatures. Otherwise I may have to back the clock frequency off a little bit. Alright, the test's been running for almost 45 minutes now. You can see at times the temperatures drift up a little bit, but since this is a Prime 95 blend test, far more extreme than any real world worst case scenario, I think I'm going to leave this frequency settings. I might fiddle around in the BIOS just a little bit more, but I think I'm going to call it a day on this system. I need to go ahead and put it back on the desk so I can get to work editing this video on it. Anyways, thanks for watching this video, and if you guys enjoyed it, feel free to leave a comment down below, and if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe.